Good morning. It's good to be with you, whether you are here in person or watching from home. It's so good for us all to be together on this gray, rainy day. As we gather this morning, let me share with you words from Sherry Woodbury. Here we are in our circle again, a circle of vision and reflection, a forum for deciding and empowering. Here we are at the base of another bridge, another space spanning the shores of today and tomorrow, beckoning us to cross the chasm one day at a time. Here we are gathered again at the cusp of the future, at the boundary that holds community together. We are here in a circle of love and trust, brought to this moment by a series of choices and promises, by hope and gratitude, by our own shadows, faced and befriended. With a servant's heart, with a leader's listening, with a parent's love, truer than all our inner trembling. Let us model the health we seek for all and lean into community. Somewhere out there, all we dream is possible. Somewhere in here, we are sowing the seeds. Come, my friends, with our hearts open to all of the challenges and possibilities that this new day and this new week bring. With our hearts open to all that inspires, sustains, redeems, and transforms us. Come, let us worship together.
The flaming chalice is the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the liberal religious tradition to which this congregation belongs. Will those of you here in person please stand as you are able for our chalice lighting? If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light it with me at this time. As we kindle this flame, we recommit ourselves to nurturing the spirits of one another and the common good of the world we share. May the light of this flame be welcoming to all who seek a liberal religious home. For those of you already standing, I invite you to remain standing for our opening hymn. Our opening hymn this morning is 226, People Look East.
Today, shining beyond the frosty weather, bright as sun and moon together. People look east and sing today, love, the star is on the way.
Hi, my name is Chris McPherson, and I'm glad to serve as part of your worship team this morning. Whether you are a first-time visitor or a long-time member, I'd like to offer you a special welcome. Here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Raleigh, we are intentionally inclusive, liberally religious, and actively serving the common good of our shared world. This morning, William Smith, one of our lay ministers, will be available in the front right corner of the sanctuary after the service to talk with anyone who might be experiencing any difficult circumstances in their lives and would like to talk to somebody. I hope you all will read through the chalice you received by email on Friday about everything happening here around UUFR, or check out the upcoming events section of our website. I'd like to highlight a few things. Chalice circles are a small, popular group for adults in this congregation. Right now, more than 125 people are participating in chalice circles. Chalice circles give participants a chance to connect more deeply with others and a chance to reflect and live more intentionally in their own lives. Sign-ups for the winter-spring chalice circles will meet monthly, February through June, and are happening now. Check the link in the chalice or on the front page of our website to find more or sign up. A special announcement and some exciting news. The search committee team reports that the congregational record has been submitted and minister candidates can see it. The search team will get the names of interested ministers in January and will then begin the interview process. So we're on our way. For all those who celebrate Hanukkah, which begins tomorrow evening at sundown, I'd like to wish you a happy Hanukkah. There will be a Hanukkah candle lighting celebration this Wednesday evening, December 17th at 7 p.m. in Founders Hall following Wednesday night dinner. We will have two special services on Christmas Eve. The first will be at 5 p.m. and is especially for families with young children. The second will be at 8 p.m. and is your more traditional Christmas Eve service. Both services will end by singing the song Silent Night by candlelight. Our in-person social hour this morning will be downstairs in Founders Hall. I hope you can join us. I now invite you to meet and greet your neighbor.
I invite us back together now. Let's come back together and keep sharing at coffee hour. So good to be together. This is a time in our service when we acknowledge some of the joys and some of the sorrows of our community. We do this because we believe a joy shared is a joy made even greater, and a sorrow shared is made easier to bear. Reverend James shares that his mother has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. He and his family will travel to spend time with his mother and other family members over the holidays. May we keep Reverend James and his family in our hearts during this difficult time. Tom and Sharon Atkinson would like to thank everyone for well wishes, cards, visits, phone calls, and all that everyone has done to help in Tom's recovery. His hip surgery was successful, and he's now continuing to recover at home. Emilio Sobral shares his sorrow that his cousin Jack in Portugal had a severe stroke and lost his vision and his ability to speak. He asks for us to send healing thoughts and prayers. Leah Bug and Kurt Johnson are grateful that Kurt continues to heal from his October open heart surgery that was almost 8 weeks ago. And they share their deep thanks to the amazing UUFR family for all their cards and meals and visits during this time. They feel carried and loved during this difficult time. George Weinstein is joyful that he finished his 12th and final chemotherapy session on the 1st of this month. Congratulations, George. As we hold these shared joys and sorrows in our hearts, and as we reflect on the joys and sorrows, fears and hopes in our own lives, let's be together in stillness and in silence, opening ourselves up to that spirit within us and amidst us, called by many names, but known to every human heart, that leads us to a fuller, deeper, richer experience of life. After the silence, our music director, Jean Marie, will lead us in the hymn, Open My Heart. But for now, let's be together in stillness and in silence.
time. If you would like to stay on the first part that I sing, you certainly may do that. If you would like to join me on the other parts as I sing them, you're welcome to do that too. Open my heart, 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 open my heart. Here comes the second part. Open my heart, 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 open
my heart. Open my heart. Open my heart. Open my heart. Open my heart.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Upadhyay, and I'm proud and honored to serve as a member of your board of directors. I'll be downstairs at social hour after the worship service if you have any questions you'd like to ask me about the board, talk to me about any concerns you may have, or just to say hi. Everything we do at UUFR is only possible because of the generous financial support that so many of us provide. For those of you who have set up automated giving to UUFR, or who send in a check by mail every month, I'd like to thank you now for your generosity. If you would like to make a contribution in person this morning, we invite you to bring it forward and put it in one of our offering plates. If you would prefer to have an usher come to you, please raise your hand. You may also give using one of the methods that will be available on the screen momentarily. Our offering will now be given and gratefully received. Thank you.
Day 1 by Caitlin Curtis. The first day of the boundary setting must be the hardest, but really, I wouldn't know because every day 1 is difficult, and I'm not sure which other day I'll make it to. Here I am, and it's hard, and I'm tired just getting started like a kid in kindergarten, like someone jumping into a pool they've never gone swimming in. How deep does this thing go, and how badly will it hurt when my face hits the cold water? Will I be liked and loved, or will someone share a crown with me when I look around the room? Day 1s are always hard, and maybe if I make it to day 2, I'll let you know just how hard it ends up being the day after, the day that maybe gets me to what's next, to the good parts of care. But today, the headache creeps in, and I long for a good nap and a hefty lunch that will get me through to the next big thing, the next little thing, the next day, and I look for the courage to keep this up. We are told that habits take somewhere between 18 and 284 days to form, which means we really have no earthly idea what it means for us to make room for growth and change. The blueprint ink has been smeared. The list of instructions are faulty. We are so hopelessly human, and that's it. So I'll be here, and I'll remember this day, day one, the day it all began, the day the boundary setting started, and the day I checked the box and said, I did it. Today I accomplished a thing. And if tomorrow I fail, I'll still call it something like living, something like the beauty and exhaustion of being human.
Thank you, Samantha and Connor and Trisha, Jean Marie and Tatiana, for your beautiful music this morning. Let's give them more love. I have a confession to make. I didn't learn about healthy boundaries until relatively late in life. And I am so happy that I have been able to learn about them because I want to get better at relationships. Each of us has a unique combination of experiences, likes and dislikes, beliefs, ways we behave, and expectations of how others should behave, and many other thoughts and feelings and habits that affect how we interact with each other on our daily lives. There are times when when the way that I do relationships bumps up against the way someone else does relationships. Sometimes I hardly feel the bumps. Sometimes, boy, howdy do I feel the bumps. Chances are that I feel the bumps most when the differences are greatest between how I do relationships and how another does relationships. These differences, they could be cultural. They could be our personalities, or how I was raised, or from any number of other factors. Because I am who I am, and I came from where I did, I have certain needs and expectations for relationships, which may or may not match the expectations and needs of the folks that I am in a relationship with. The less compatible these needs and expectations are, the bigger the bumps. Nedra Glover Tawwab, in her book Set Boundaries, Find Peace, defines boundaries as expectations and needs that help us feel safe and comfortable in our relationships. When our expectations of and needs for comfort and safety are not getting met in a relationship, it's time to better understand what our expectations and what our needs are. To communicate these expectations and needs to the other person, and decide how or if these expectations and needs can be met within the relationship. Like perhaps some of you, I learned what I learned about boundaries from the way my parents did relationships. And I suspect my parents learned about their boundaries from their parents, and so on, back through generations. More than we'd like to admit, a large part of how we do relationships we learn from our cultures. And what's an important way of teaching culture? Folk tales, fairy tales. When I did a quick Google search on folk tales with terrible boundaries, there were dozens of stories listed. Does this surprise any of you? Since my family history is European, just for educational purposes, I selected a relatively tame European fairy tale, Cinderella. This story was written down in the late 1600s by Charles Perrault, and he named the story Cendrillon ou la petite pantoufle de verre, in terrible French, my apologies. And this is translated into English as Little Ashes or Little Glass Slipper. And then Little Ashes became Cinderella. I'm sure most of you know the story of Cinderella, but I'm just going to do a quick recap. There was a gentleman who had a daughter, and his first wife died with whom he had this daughter. The daughter's name was Cinderella, and she took after her mother in every way. She was of unparalleled goodness and sweetness of temper. The gentleman took a second wife, who was the proudest and most haughty of women, and she had two daughters who took after her in every way. The gentleman's second wife couldn't bear Cinderella's goodness, so she did what any other stepmom would do, turned her stepdaughter into scullery maid, and gave her only rags to wear, while her own two daughters lived in luxury. Cinderella endured her situation with patience, and, as the author says, dared not tell her father, who would have scolded her, for his wife governed him entirely. The gentleman's family was invited to the king's ball, and everyone in the household was allowed to go except for Cinderella. Cinderella earnestly helped her sisters prepare for the ball and gracefully bore their jeers about how ridiculous it would be for a girl of such low standing like herself to attend the ball. After the family left for the ball, Cinderella's godmother saw her crying because she couldn't go to the ball. And since Godmother happened to be a fairy, she turned a pumpkin into a grand coach, and she turned some mice into horses, and a rat into a coachman, and some lizards into footmen. Then she turned Cinderella's rags into a beautiful gown and put 2 perfect glass slippers on her feet. Then off to the ball Cinderella went, promising to be home by midnight when the magic would be undone. Cinderella charmed everyone at the ball, most notably the prince, who invited her to his table and gave her all manner of delicious food to eat. Cinderella was so gracious that she shared some of her goodies with her stepsisters, who didn't recognize her. Cinderella, of course, was having such a great time, she lost track of time, and hearing the first stroke of midnight, ran out of the palace, leaving one of her glass slippers behind, then returned home in her humble form. The prince never got Cinderella's phone number, but he found her glass slipper. So he sent his messengers all over the kingdom to find the woman who fit the slipper. They finally found the matching foot on Cinderella, and she and the prince got married, and Cinderella was so full of goodness that she allowed her whole family to live with her in the castle, and everyone lived happily ever after. The moral of the story, according to the author, is, and I quote, "Young women, in the winning of a heart, graciousness is more important than a beautiful hairdo. It is a true gift of the fairies. Without it, nothing is possible. With it, one can do anything." Of course, a fairy godmother doesn't hurt either, right? So, where do we start with the terrible boundaries in this story? Does Cinderella really have any power to set boundaries with her stepmom or her stepsisters? It's important to remember that even today, there are people who have no power to change abusive, oppressive, or neglectful situations they find themselves in. Also, not all cultures are as individualistic or self-deterministic as today's United States. In hierarchical cultures, or those with more assigned family or professional roles, one's ability to set their own boundaries can be limited. In the time that Cinderella was written, society was hierarchical, pretty hierarchical, and the roles of women were limited to household and family duties. Maybe Cinderella's only recourse in that culture was to meet her situation with goodness and grace. But what about her father? Where was he in all of this? Could Cinderella have appealed to her father? The story says that she was afraid of telling him, that he would just scold her for complaining and tell her that what his wife said goes. But could he have made her situation any worse? Could he have made it any better? In the Disney movie adaptation, Cinderella's father died shortly after marriage. But in the original story, he's still around. Best case scenario, he might have been emotionally checked out from the grief over the loss of his first wife. Worst case scenario, he voluntarily granted his new wife the power to oppress his daughter. Ew. But for educational purposes, let's just say that he found it easier to go with the flow rather than set some healthy boundaries with his new wife, leading to his daughter bearing the consequences. This isn't exactly a message I'd want children to take to heart. Let me be clear, child abuse and neglect is way beyond boundary setting 101. This is apples and oranges. This is a big boundary problem. But whether Cinderella's stepmother was willing or able to change her behavior is best determined by a clinical social worker. That being said, Cinderella's life would have changed dramatically had her father set a healthy boundary with his new wife, such as, "I expect that all 3 of our children be treated the same. If you cannot do that, our families will need to live apart." And what of the godmother? Why did the fairy godmother use her powers to make Cinderella look rich and beautiful so she could catch the prince, rather than changing her household situation so that Cinderella was treated equitably? Did the grandmother have enough of a relationship with Cinderella's father to set some healthy boundaries that might have changed Cinderella's situation? Perhaps she could have said, "I'm concerned about the differential treatment Cinderella is receiving. If this treatment continues, I will need to report the situation to Child Protective Services." And if Godmother and Cinderella lived in North Carolina today, Godmother would be required by law to report the situation to Child Protective Services. I personally would much rather children learn about the magic of supporting others than that of transforming your appearance so that you can attract a good mate. And yet, the terrible message: if you are gracious in accepting your oppression and everyone in your life would rather ignore your oppression than risk doing something to change it, and if you have a fairy godmother, you will catch a rich prince and your former oppressor will face no consequences. Yay! Give me that message. And yet this message and messages like it are delivered time and time again. Is it any wonder that people like myself learned about healthy boundaries later in life? Particularly as a woman, how many times did I hear from society that I was to be graciously selfless, that to advocate for my own needs was selfish? Does this resonate with anybody? Yeah. My parents' boundaries were either rigid or communicated passive-aggressively with a side of guilt. They had strict expectations for how the 5 of us kids were to behave. If one of us fell short of these expectations, we got punished. There was little room for explaining why we did or didn't do something, and questioning their judgment was out of the question. When I asked my mom for something out of the ordinary, often it would be answered with a sigh and an "I suppose," leading me to believe that I'd asked too much. But like a good martyr, she'd do it anyway. And there were times when I was scolded for being selfish, when what I thought I'd done was set a healthy boundary, with no opportunity to explore where assertiveness became selfishness. But I do have good news for you. It's not too late to learn about healthy boundaries. It's not too late to learn more about healthy boundaries. I believe that life lived well is at least partly a process of learning how to do relationships better, regardless of where I started in the process. The first step in a healthy boundary is feeling the bump in the relationship. That bump is when how I do relationship bumps into how you do relationship. It's something you feel in your body that says something's not right. Anyone have this feeling before? Yeah. It's an invitation to explore what that feeling might be telling you. Did you expect the relationship to go one way and it went another way? The thing about expectations is that they're often hidden until something happens that you don't expect. And that is the time to get curious, to learn more about what you expected and why, and how healthy and realistic your expectations are. Are you not getting what you need out of the relationship at that moment? Is this a one-time thing, or is it a pattern? Relationships are give and take. Sometimes I get what I need. Sometimes I give someone else what they need. But ideally, in the long term, we both get enough of what we want and need. If we're not, it's time to have a talk and think about setting some boundaries. Direct, assertive communication is best. Not passive, not aggressive, not passive-aggressive, but assertive, directly to the person that you've had that relational bump with. Tell them what you expect, what you need, what you want. Nedra Glover Tawwab in her book suggests telling them no if you don't want to do something they've asked you to do. Tell them how you feel as a result of their behavior. Share your honest thoughts and feelings about your experiences. Respond when you feel the bump, not later. Make your expectations clear. Don't assume that they'll just figure them out. Use I statements and don't attack or demean them. The poem we heard earlier, One Day by Caitlin Curtis, so beautifully illustrates how difficult setting a boundary can be. Setting a boundary often doesn't just happen once. Sometimes it needs to be restated. Setting a boundary, we've already established that U.S. Disney culture doesn't exactly encourage the setting of healthy boundaries. It's hard. It's new. It's risky. If you tend towards people-pleasing like myself, to set a boundary is to risk that someone not like me, or even a rupture or end of the relationship. But if I'm not getting what I want or I need, if I've made a reasonable and heartfelt request that the other can't meet, or if the other can't accept my truth, perhaps it is a good time to reassess the relationship. As uncomfortable as setting a boundary might feel, if you start small, unapologetically, without the long backstory, and if you stick with what you say, chances are you'll likely find that people accept it and move on. However, when you set a boundary, it's important to realize that you need to be ready to reset that boundary on day 2 or day 20 or day 200. Following through is as important as setting it in the first place. But if you truly need something from another person and you're not getting it, isn't the short-term discomfort worth the potential long-term benefits? To clearly and lovingly advocate for your needs can be a gift not just to yourself, but to the important people in your life as well. I've only scratched the surface on how to set healthy boundaries. Luckily, if you're interested in learning more, you will have the opportunity to learn more, because I will be leading a class on healthy boundaries within the next couple of months, based on the book I've mentioned before, Set Boundaries, Find Peace, by Nedra Glover Tawwab. Keep your eyes out for more information in the coming weeks. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold the shared values of interdependence, plurality, and transformation, among others. And we hold love at the center of everything that we do. Part of interdependence is the deep knowledge that we are not meant to be alone. We were built for community. We need community. We are interdependent. A commitment to pluralism means that we have a responsibility to work through the inevitable conflicts that must happen before we can understand the many ways people live and thrive on our earth, and how our differences make us stronger. Because we believe we are each capable of transformation, our work is to create and to nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice, as together we learn ways to repair harm and damaged relationships. It's all about healthy and nurturing relationships, for community is built on relationships. So let's learn how to do relationships well. Let's learn how to do healthy boundaries well. Because sometimes you gotta say no to say yes. May it be so. Amen. Will you please stand as you are able for our closing hymn, which is 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
As we end our time together today in spiritual community, may we depart this sacred space, knowing that blessings shall follow us all the days of our lives, if we live in and return to right relationships, if we extend grace and forgiveness to ourselves and others, if we behold mercy as a spiritual superpower, if we emanate the greater love that holds us close. May our lives radiate the blessings that we have been given. May kindness and compassion fall gently from us. May there be peace in the world, and may it begin again with us. Amen.